3, 2, 1.
Hello, it's Omelette Benobi here with PragerU. Will wanted me to do a sort of Midwestern accent today, which I don't know how to do. So that was my attempt.
Darn tootin', that was not a good accent, Omelette.
No, it wasn't.
No. Where'd you learn how to talk like that, eh?
I learned 5 seconds before we started this live.
Okay, A is Canadian, and you guys just butchered both of those. As
I
someone
didn't say
who's
I
born
was
in
American.
Minnesota,
I didn't
I'm
say I was
embarrassed.
American. I just said I was up from the north.
People
I'm more
hate these accents, by the way. They're like, please stop doing the accent intros.
Listen, just because people say they hate it, just some people comment and say that they hate it, but most people, they don't comment because they love it.
Exactly.
They're too happy watching to even comment.
Yeah, they're so caught up in such the greatness of what we're doing that they don't even feel the need to comment.
Darn tootin'.
Also, no one says that. I've never heard anyone say that besides you.
Haven't you seen Fargo?
Oh my goodness. Okay, moving on. Today we have 3 stories for you. And one of them, the one that we're going to start off with today, is actually very triumphant. And I'm very proud of the video that we're going to show you today. For those of you who are unaware, there is something by the name of critical race theory, or CRT, as you'll hear it said in many of these political spaces, that is sort of infiltrating our public schooling systems and many of our institutions. And at its foundation, critical race theory states that America as a nation was founded on white supremacy and racism and bigotry. And critical race theory at its heart is trying to teach people to really view themselves by their race. We view white people as oppressors in critical race theory, and we view people of color as the oppressed. And that is sort of the lens of which people are being taught this theory. So it is infiltrating our public schooling systems, especially at the lower level where, you know, parents are sending their kids to these schools and we're being told things about affinity groups based on your race, or promoting equity. I don't know why I can't say that. I just had a mini stroke saying the word equity rather than equality in our school systems. And it's a really harmful thing to teach children who otherwise would not be concerned at all about somebody's race. But it is getting, infiltrated into our schooling systems. Teachers are talking about it. School boards are talking about it. But parents are waking up to this infiltration into our education systems. Now, I want to show you a video of a parent going to a school board meeting out in, I believe it's pronounced Loudoun County, who is speaking out against the influence of critical race theory in her child's education. So we'll pull this up for you.
Darn tootin'.
Oh, no.
In the words of Martin Luther King Jr., I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Now I have a dream that we will implement love, not hate, or supporting another Jim Crow's agenda. CRT is not an honest dialogue. It is a tactic that was used by Hitler and the Ku Klux Klan on slavery very many years ago to dumb down my ancestors, so we could not think for ourselves. CRT is racist. It is abusive. It discriminates against one's color. Let me educate you. An honest dialogue does not oppress. An honest dialogue does not implement hatred or injustice. It's to communicate without deceiving people. Today, we don't need your agreement. We want action and a backbone for what we asked for today, to ban CRT. We don't want your political advertisement to divide our children or belittle them. Think twice before you indoctrinate such racist theories. You cannot tell me what is or is not racist. Look at me. I had to come down here today to tell you to your face that we are coming together and we are strong. This will not be the last. Greet and meet respectfully.
Wow, if there was a mic, she could have dropped it.
Right?
She went hard.
She did. That was fantastic. I love to see parents who are so passionate about how their kids are being influenced that they actually go to the source of the problem, which are these school boards, and say something.
Yeah, no, if you want to get something done, you have to go and say something. Like, people think that they can just go on Facebook and complain about it and say, all this critical race theory stuff, it really sucks. And then their kids learn it and they're like on Facebook again as a Karen, and they're like, yeah, this really, it's like, that doesn't do anything. Like, these people actually going and talking about it to the school board and letting them know a piece of their mind is how you get things done. You have to be willing to put yourself out there to make a change.
Yeah, you do. And for a little bit of background as to what's happening out in this county. So the school board, specifically 6 members of this school board, were participating in a Facebook group, which made their goal to dox parents who were against CRT, calling them racist, calling them white supremacists. So they were a part of this Facebook group, these school board members who are sharing the parents' names and what school they go to and what district, and their support of ending critical race theory within their schools. So you're essentially doxing parents within your own school district.
It doesn't make any sense. I mean, when I was going through high school, at least, I mean, and I'm sure most people here who didn't have CRT before it was cool. I mean, we learned about black people. We learned about everything in American history. It's not like kids went through school not knowing what slavery was or not knowing what Jim Crow laws were or that America did some bad stuff. It's not like we didn't know this. Of course we knew this. Sure. It's like this is not about teaching history in a way that's conducive to helping people or making the world a better place. It's about pushing a political agenda. Yep. America is not the racist place that people want to say it is. And this whole 1619 project and the critical race theory, I mean, it's trying to paint America as this horrible racist country. But the things that they won't tell you about America, like in the founding fathers, just specifically, I mean, like Benjamin Franklin started one of the first anti-slavery societies in America. I mean, John Adams was totally against slaves. George Washington said there was no one else who wanted to abolish slaves more than him. Thomas Jefferson had a black woman who he impregnated and then had children with her and then made them free and taught his slaves how to read and write and went against the crown to do that. I mean, even in the Declaration of Independence, where it says like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, in the first draft, it was life, liberty, and property. And then they changed it away from property because the founding fathers, who were not these racist, horrible people that you'll say, they changed it away from property because they knew that southern states would think that slaves were property and use that as a means and say that God gave you the right to have slaves, which is just not true. And so that's why they changed it. America is not this racist country that people say it was. It wasn't even founded on all these racist ideals. Of course, there was racism and slavery was bad. We admit that, and we learned that in schools, but you don't have to go back in time and now teach kids about how terrible our country is and say that it still sucks for people. It doesn't. It doesn't. You live in the best country in the world where you are the freest to do anything that you want. It is a lie, a blatant lie, and a political tool to say that America is this racist country.
You are exactly right. Our founding fathers did found this country with the intention of ending racism. And the fact that we don't get to learn that in school is really detrimental to people's worldview. And it's just ridiculous that people who are against, slavery, against oppression, support what happened to this country in the civil rights movement, now want to re-implement segregation. We want to separate white kids from black kids and teach black kids that they're somehow victims by virtue of being born with their skin color, and teach white people that they're somehow privileged by virtue of being born with their skin color. It's so regressive. It is taking us back to a point in our country that we are not proud of, and nobody is proud of what we have done in terms of transgressions in our history. Nobody's proud of it. Not conservatives, not people on the left, and everybody admits that. So why are we so concerned and so hell-bent on showing that this country is somehow a white supremacist nation when it is not?
They want to sell Howard Zinn books. Have you ever read People's History of America?
No, I haven't.
You haven't read it? You read it, Taylor?
No.
No? You know what I'm talking about, though?
Yeah.
The Howard Zinn book. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay, it's a book that I learned. I read this in AP U.S. History when I was in high school, my junior year of high school, and it's just a terrible book. I mean, at the time, I read this book, and it's like talking about how we genocided everyone and how horrible everything is and how much America sucks. And I read it at the time, being in high school, and I was like, wow, America really does suck. America's the worst. I can't believe I live here. This place stinks, man. Darn tootin' it stinks. And it was like, at the end of the day, it's like you can break down all of the stuff, like in that book specifically, and break down all of these different arguments with CRT. But again, these are middle school, these are high school students, okay? They don't have the time or resources or even know how to break down these different arguments that you're hearing from the left on this stuff. Like in Howard Zinn's books, like he says, like the bombing of Dresden that happened at the beginning of the war happened in 1945 when that was the end of the war. That's just like one thing about it. And that might seem like a small thing, but if that's one inaccuracy within the book, you can go through and find inaccuracies in all of those books and in all of the things that have to do with CRT and American history. They don't want to teach you real history, okay? They don't want to teach you real history. They want to teach you their leftist agenda history that pushes their narrative.
You're actually really right. And now that you mentioned that book, I do remember it because my mother gave me a copy of that book.
Oh, really?
And I remember, going in and reading it. And, the first probably 3 or 4 chapters are all about Columbus and, the Spanish Inquisition and everything like that. And coming in and stealing all the land from the Native Americans and killing them and all this stuff. And it's meant to be rewriting history, not from the viewpoint of the victor, but those who were oppressed throughout our nation's history.
Yeah.
And this is essentially what is being taught in our schools with critical race theory. And if you are a parent and your child is in a public school right now or an institution of which you are not keeping a close eye on what they're being taught, I would venture to say that you should check in on what your student is being taught.
I want to say one thing, that this is when I talk to people about this stuff with America and being racist, I debate people, or I'm talking on an interview, whatever it is. I'm talking to someone who disagrees with me about this stuff. Just like I said the other day about asking I forget what question it was. I asked people to say, like, ask this one question to people and see if that works. This is the one that you need to ask people. You need to ask them when they say, America's this racist country, we did all these horrible things. How can you, like, support it? Say, was America worth it? That is the question to ask. Was America worth it to, even if we did these things that were horrible, even if these bad things happened in our past, was America worth it? Was America worth it to be around with everything that we have done for the world now? I mean, all of the amazing things, the technology, the medical technology, I mean, the helping people across the world, I mean, the humanitarian efforts, everything, the peacekeeping that we have done. I mean, America in so many ways, we're the best country ever. So asking these people, is America worth it? And if they answer that America was not worth it, then you know what kind of person you're up against. And these are the people that we need to battle against. If someone says America's worth it, but I don't really agree, then that's someone who you can change their mind on. But if they say America's not worth it, then you know that these are the people who we have to battle against.
Yeah, because these people are not in the interest of conserving what has been great about America since the beginning, what our nation was founded on. They're in the business of completely transforming everything, of burning down all the institutions, as they say, taking down the system and building their own more equitable version of a United States. And if you cannot find the value in what our country was founded on, the principles of which our founding fathers, birthed this nation, then you don't have the right to have a discussion about this critical race theory stuff, and you're not in the interest of really fixing America. You're in the interest of burning it all down and transforming it into what you want to see.
It's like Dennis always says. He's like, if you had a wife, well, maybe a husband for you.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't ask. Okay, don't ask.
You mean you don't know? Oh my gosh.
If you have a wife, okay, this is for my men out there. You have a wife or a girlfriend, and you say, "Oh, I love my girlfriend, but I want to radically transform her."
Yeah.
You can't say you love your wife and you want to radically transform her. That means you don't love her. So these people who say they love America don't actually love America because they want to radically transform it. It's like AOC coming out and saying, like, "Oh, the Green New Deal," like something about the Green New Deal. And they say, "Oh, we love America, that's why we're pushing for a Green New Deal." It's like, you don't, because that whole document and everything you're pushing for is anti-American.
It is.
It is anti-American. It doesn't support any of the values that we profess as people who love this country. And so it's like, you can't say that you love America when you want to radically change everything about it. These people with the CRT, you can't say you love America and want to teach American history when you are rewriting history and making it seem like America is a horrible place.
Yeah, and I mean, and in the same breath, they say that they love black people and that Black Lives Matter, when inherently with what you are teaching them, you are trying to teach them that they are victims, that they're going to have to work 10 times as hard as everybody else, which is simply not true. So why force feed this false narrative to people who can really be successful on their own? They don't need to hear this stuff, and it's not true. And you're just, if anything, inhibiting people from finding true success. You're planting these seeds in their mind that are just going to poison the way that they view the world when everything that you're saying is false.
I hate poisoning.
I hate poisoning people.
Yeah.
Will Witz.
Will Witt 2021. That's my quote poster. No more poisoning of our children. No, poisoning children is pretty bad.
Yes.
I don't agree with that at all. But the left they're poisoning our children's mind.
Yeah, again, if you don't think that this is happening in your public school system, I can almost guarantee that it is. And there's a lot of states out here battling to get this removed from the curriculum. And it is a tough battle to fight. So what they're doing with these children is essentially teaching little kids to look at each other by their skin color and view each other differently based on that. And we have to fight against that. And that's why I wanted to show this parent going to the school board and really confronting it at its source. We need more parents to do that. We need more parents to be looking over their kids' shoulders, seeing what they're being educated on in their schools, because like I said, I can almost guarantee that it's false. So if you are a parent who's dealing with this with your child, PragerU has PrEP.
Yes, we do. I thought you were going to keep going, but then you headed over to me.
I was passing it on.
PrEP is our resources for parents and educators. It's a great group, and you can join on PragerU.com/prep. There's tons of resources for kids from kindergarten to 6th grade, lots of videos to watch, and we're actually going to check out a little snippet of a video. I know some of you guys aren't children, and I don't say this lightly, okay? I say this very, very seriously.
Okay.
This is meant for children, and I watched this video, and I was I was very entertained.
Yeah, it's actually such a good time, and you might even learn something. Who knows?
I have to give a shout out to the production team here at PragerU because they did such a good job making this into something that even a 24-year-old
and a 20-year-old
white privileged male can enjoy.
So here, we'll show you a little clip from it.
Hey! You guys are early! I was just finishing my lunch. Welcome to Otto's Tales, story time brought to you by PrEP, PragerU's resources for educators and parents. Do you mind? Hi, Otto. I would love some mustard. How sweet. Otto! This isn't real mustard. You silly dog.
It's actually Amala in the costume.
That's my other side hustle, guys. I don't always do this. Sometimes I'm Otto.
Yeah, Ottala.
Wow.
I'm Jill, and today we're reading From Sea to Shining Sea, written by Callista Gingrich and illustrated by Susan Arciero. Now, there's someone who has a very unique name in this story, and I want you to listen for her name, and let's see if you can find it by the end of the episode.
Right,
Ellis
guys, pay
the elephant
attention.
loved the American tale, where courage, determination, and freedom prevail. He wanted to know how America came to be, a nation united from sea to shining sea. The country was young and needed to elect a strong president the people would respect. George Washington had led the American Revolution and became the first president under the Constitution.
There we go. And that is some of the content that we make over at PragerU Prep.
That is American history right there.
It is.
Everybody knows that elephants came over on the Mayflower and started this great country of ours.
Yes.
If this was, it is very good. It was actually very entertaining. And I think that if you have children, you should be showing them our prep content. They're on YouTube and also on the PragerU website. If that was the left, they would have turned the elephant into a black elephant and all the founding fathers would have beat him up.
That is
Or
very true.
enslaved him or something.
They would have shown them, killing Native Americans and stealing the land from them and then founding this country on white supremacy and slavery.
Yeah, xenophobia, for sure.
Yeah, imagine being a little kid just having that taught as American history. And that is what is happening. I cannot stress that enough. That is what is happening. People, especially, these teachers who are mainly on the left, teaching is a very liberal field. They are having an aversion to teaching American history. They don't want to teach kids American history anymore.
No, they do not.
And it's a sad thing, and we should bring it back. So if you're having trouble with this at your school, or you're a parent and your kid is having trouble with this at your school, sign up for PragerU Prep.
And we did drop the link in the chat, so make sure you check out PragerU.com/prep. You can join and figure out ways to support and just enjoy some of that content, share it with the parents that you know and teachers that you know, and enjoy it for yourself.
Thank you, Taylor.
Wow,
yeah.
guys. That was perfect unison. People comment about your chemistry, but that was just like, it's getting scary.
It's
I know.
telepathy at this point. We
All right,
just read each
we
other's
always finish each other's sentences. Wow.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
The
This
chemistry is just
crazy.
insane. Oh, who would have thought? Anyways, we're going to move on to our next story now. So before, on an earlier stream, we showed you a CIA recruitment ad, and that one in particular was about a Latina woman who joined the CIA and was just very proud of her. She said, I was so oppressed by, my race and people treat me differently. And it's so great that I was able to join the CIA and be a part of something that is inclusive. Now, the CIA tends to be running with this theme, it seems, because they've now released a new recruitment ad that is focused around LGBTQ pride and featuring one of their gay agents. So here we go.
A gagent.
A
if you will.
gay agent.
We all thought it, but you had to say it.
Will always does that. He always has to say what's in his mind.
I know. I'm a habitual line crosser. It's okay.
Here we go.
As an agency librarian, I work to ensure that our collection and services are matched up with what CIA needs. Not only am I involved in the acquisitions of journals, books, and countless electronic resources, I'm also encouraged to curate special collections that challenge expectation. Recently, I brought in our intelligence gaming collection to give officers unique opportunities to practice skills they need in their various roles. Instead of sitting for hours in front of a computer-based training, they can play a carefully selected game to train a specific set of skills while simultaneously building on the myriad soft skills essential to intelligence work. My favorite thing about CIA is that they encourage the out-of-the-box ideas that drive real progress. Growing up gay in a small southern town, I was lucky to have a wonderful and accepting family. I always struggled with the idea that I might not be able to discuss my personal life at work. Imagine my surprise when I was taking my oath at CIA and I noticed a rainbow on then-Director Brennan's lanyard, which I later learned was designed by Angle, one of the many employee resource groups here at the agency. I remember being stunned. Since then, however, I've learned that far beyond the resource groups, inclusion is a core value here. Officers from the top down work hard to ensure that every single person, whatever their gender, gender identity, race, disability, or sexual orientation, can bring their entire self to work every day.
Wow.
Oh, there
We
it is
really have to
again.
stop.
Oh, no.
Okay. I cannot believe this. It's honestly unbelievable.
Central Intelligence Agency, you know, it's infiltrating everything.
Oh my gosh. Imagine just watching your national defense just become weaker and weaker and weaker.
Especially when we see everything going on in the news right now.
I know. And this is what the CIA is worried about.
No, other countries are definitely laughing at us right now because we're worried about, making sure that, I don't know, there's all this like diversity, inclusion stuff. That's what the priorities, that's what our intelligence agency, whose purpose is to defend us and like know what's going on in the world. And we're so like inwardly focused on the personal lives. He said, I'm worried that I won't be able to bring my personal life to work. And the CIA is broadcasting that as like, hey, you should come work here because you can bring your personal life to work. Like, what does that have to do with defending America, collecting intelligence from, about what's going on in the world? And the rest of the world, meanwhile, is like bulldozing across, doing whatever the heck they want to do and not worried about American interest one bit, and the CIA has nothing to say about it.
Even if you're straight, you shouldn't bring your personal life to work.
Yeah, that's not. It's like if you want to
work.
hire gay people for the CIA, like, well, we're not mad about that. But it's like, why is your entire ad built around diversity when that's not the purpose of the CIA?
Yeah. How about you come to work, you do your job, and then you go home?
Yeah.
What happened to that?
No, that's a thing of the past. And
I
you're
guess it
obviously a
is.
homophobe. They need to be gay at work.
Obviously. And what's really funny about this video to me, and I think it really breaks down what the left talks about, their ideology and how they brainwash people when none of it is really true. He had all these perceived notions about the fact that he was going to go work for the CIA and nobody was going to want to hear about his personal life. He was going to get made fun of because he's gay. People were going to be bigoted towards him. And he goes there and he goes, oh, that wasn't what I thought it was at all, which really speaks to, the larger umbrella of how America actually is. People perceive us to be white supremacists. People call us racist. People call us bigoted. People say that we discriminate, and then you get here and you don't experience anything.
Which is also weird because he was like, my family was super chill with it. And then he's like, I grew up in this small town in the South.
Exactly.
And it was pretty chill. And then after all that, he's still like, I didn't know what was going to happen. It's like, dude, you know what was going to happen. Everyone was going to be fine with you being gay.
Exactly.
No one cares that you're gay. It's if you do a good job or not.
Yes.
Do a good job, and then no one cares who you like, all right?
So why are we talking about it? And it goes to show, like, I was exactly like that when I was on the left. As a black female, I was taught, oh, you're going to have to work so much harder. You're going to be oppressed. People are going to treat you differently. And I didn't experience an ounce of that. I mean, not an ounce of it. Yet I was so convinced in my own mind of my own perceived oppression that I let that, again, poison my brain. We're just poisoning people's brains.
Rat poison. These people are virtue signaling. It's nothing real. You can say like how Latina or how gay your CIA is all you want, but it's like what people care about is that the job gets done.
Exactly.
People care that our CIA is collecting intelligence on terror cells and evil people around the world and, Hamas right now. And like those are the kind of things that we care about the CIA is doing. I don't care who's gay, who's Mexican, who's black. It doesn't mean who's trans. None of that matters to me. What you wear to work means more to me than who you're sleeping with or what color your skin is. Like, none of that means anything to me. The only thing that matters is that you're doing a good job. And right now, other countries are laughing at us because they're going to be eating our lunch. 70% of people who go through the military service, 70% of millennials couldn't qualify for military service in this country. Yes. 70%. That's a mix of the ASVAB test as well as the physical stuff. And it's like, that's what we're worried about people being gay. It's like people can't even qualify to get in the military.
Do you remember the old like Marine Corps commercials where like the guy like has to like climb the impossible mountain and then fight the dragon, and it's like this awesome badass commercial, and then it's like the few, the proud, the Marines.
Right.
Like the
Exactly.
contrast between that and this ad where it's like, you know, oh well, I was really scared about what people would think about me at work, but the good news is the CIA is going to be really nice and let me play board games and teach people about things. Like, what are we doing? What is this?
We're creating safe spaces for CIA agents. It's so crazy. Like that whole video, not an ounce of strength was shown in that video. Not an ounce of aptitude was shown in that video. Essentially, we just watched a guy come on screen, say, I teach CIA agents how to play board games. Also, I'm gay, and the CIA loves that. Join the CIA today.
You know, the new commercial, he like climbs that mountain and he's just fighting like the GOP like on the top of the mountain.
Yeah, we've become weak.
Drag queen story hour when he gets to the top. And it's like, oh, this is so great. I mean, do you feel
The
like,
mountain is made of cotton
are
candy.
you going to go to sleep feeling safer than knowing that America is being defended by a CIA with these priorities right now? Like,
No,
honestly.
no, not at all. I just care about what you guys do. And maybe, you know, maybe they're just doing this. There's a part of me that thinks, okay, they're just doing this for marketing, and the people who actually work at the CIA are like actually doing some good work. I hope that that's the case. I hope that this like hasn't infiltrated every part of their organization, and that there are people who work there. I'm sure I would assume that a lot of the people who work at the CIA, majority of people are great people who don't care about this stuff. And it's mostly marketing. It's always marketing departments. That's why like our culture is so centralized on marketing right now in these huge leftist cities. But so I would hope that that's the case, but I can't be for certain.
Yeah,
I can only hope.
Just like look at all the facets of our society that are focusing on this kind of stuff. We have corporations focusing on it. We have our colleges focusing on it. We have our public schools focusing on it. We have the CIA and people who are in charge of our homeland defense focusing on it. Just think about how many resources, how many minds, how much money is going towards creating content like this and pushing an agenda like this, when it could be going towards actual education, actual work for CIA agents, actual protection of U.S. citizens. We are just wasting our time and our efforts on this sort of stuff.
And yeah, and for all the emphasis on this being something that's like progressive, progress is when we are no longer talking about these things. That's what it looks like. It's when it doesn't matter, like to what Will was saying. If you can get the job done, that's what matters. And we're progressing when all this stuff is not the focus, and we're not worried about what your race is or what your sex is or what your gender is or whatever. We're worried about, can you get the job done, and is the best person for it? Are all those barriers removed and no one's discriminating against anyone? And it feels like we were kind of pretty much there, and now they're taking us back, and they're putting all this race, gender, sex, class, all that stuff back into focus and creating new barriers and undoing the actual progress that's being made in the name of progress. It's so backwards.
It's like the progress that they have with like the many of the trans activists. They tell like people like if you're trans, like let's say I was a man before and then I become a woman and then I go to like hook up with a man, right? And I don't tell them before. They say you should be able to do that. Like that's totally fine, which is of course not fine. I mean, that's a horrible, terrible thing to do to someone, right? But they're telling people that it's fine. And in turn, that makes it so that people have like violent actions taken against them when they're trans, or they have discriminatory practices taken against them because they're trans. Because the movement, the trans movement, it got so progressive that it was telling people, okay, now you don't have to tell someone who you're sleeping with whether or not you're trans. And that is not progressive, that is regressive, and you're actually making it worse for these types of people in society, not better. You're making it worse by getting so progressive. You are regressing by making these kind of jumps. They're getting so woke that they don't even know what to do. All our heads are about to explode. It's getting insane.
It is getting insane.
Well, more insane. It's been insane for a long time. Insane in
has.
the membrane for a long time.
Yeah, it's just getting worse and worse. And like I said, the CIA just spent probably an exorbitant amount of resources making that video to simply have an agent go and say, hey guys, the CIA is not homophobic. It's like, okay, yeah, we already knew that.
It's like
Thank
if you have to say that too. Like,
I know. Then it's like, what's really happening?
yeah.
What?
We are the CIA gay.
Gosh. Will.
But also, like, I'm seeing comments in the chat too that people are like, you know, I'm gay and I'm conservative and none of this stuff matters to me, and it's true.
Right.
Like, the gay people I know are not the ones making a big deal out of, you know, everyone needs to accept me. Everyone needs it. It's the woke left people who need to put this out in front of everything and to get their own virtue signaling out of it.
I would assume that the people who made this ad are straight. I would guess
Honestly.
that they are straight people who made this ad to show that like they care about gay people.
I
so
accept
much.
you guys. I hope you know it. And I made this 1 minute and 30-second video just so that you know that.
Same with like the Latino one that we watched the other day, the other CIA recruitment ad. If you guys haven't seen them, I bet the people who made that were white.
Exactly.
and they're like trying to play their woke cards and be the wokest person out there. You just make yourself look like a fool.
You do make yourself look like a fool, and it's essentially it's just ruining society. It's ruining culture, and the woke left is honestly that's just what they're doing. And somebody who has really brought in light to that recently is Joe Rogan. So I'm going to show you an article here about Joe Rogan talking about the COVID-19 lockdowns and how
smooth transition.
Oh, thank you very much.
And I just looked at each other like,
Damn, Danielle.
well done.
I plugged myself into the next story. So yes, Joe Rogan has been talking about how New York is irreversibly effed. He says, I'm not going to repeat exactly what he wrote, but he's talking about how New York City and the leftist policies and leftist ideology, specifically that surrounding the COVID-19 lockdown, has essentially ruined the city. He talks about how all these businesses have been shut down. Nobody's coming out of their homes. Americans are upset with all the mandates in regards to masks and vaccines. And as a city, New York City, that used to be so full of just life and culture and fun is no longer what it used to be.
I love New York. You know, that's where I'm from, so it's pretty sad to see.
You're bringing back yesterday's accent?
Yeah.
People hated that accent.
They really did. I think we had a lot of New Yorkers watch the podcast yesterday because they were not happy with the accents.
You guys can't say you're not happy with the accents. I'm celebrating New York. I'm not doing it in a mean way.
I love New York.
I'm not trying to make fun of you. I love you.
We're back to the cultural appropriation
I know. That's what
conversation.
you know. I have to go to New York and do the accent around New Yorkers and then do it around like college students and see which group of people thinks that it's offensive.
Our next video coming to you guys soon is Will doing that.
That's the next one.
But anyways, so Joe talks about how he doesn't blame people for this sort of great exodus that is happening from states like New York and from places like California, because who wants to sit in a state where all this stuff is happening, the world around them is deteriorating, and still continue to invest money into the very same policies that are creating the destruction?
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's all pretty sickening to see that these places that were once like the most amazing places in America, I mean, Los Angeles, everybody knows that Los Angeles was like the best place ever in America.
Yep.
Like in the 1960s and Hollywood and like the golden age of Hollywood, like it was the most amazing place to be. And now it's literally the worst place to be. There's nowhere worse in America to be than in Los Angeles, not just because of the high taxes and high business expenses and all of that, but just the culture of this place is so bad. And that's not even all attributed to leftism. It's attributed to just the culture that we have here in LA. And it sucks that that's where we are right now, because I love LA. I love so many things about here. And it's just gone so bad.
Yeah, Amala moved here from Florida, rural Florida, like 2 months ago. And what is your expectation versus reality? We did the whole vlog about it, but
Yes.
what in your own words, kind of like what was your expectation and then what was reality? And I'm sure you heard a few things, but
yeah, I mean, when I was a child and I heard about Los Angeles, it was pictured as the pinnacle of American society. There was so much to do here. It was sunshiny. It was clean. There were celebrities waltzing around. Everybody loved each other. Everybody was here to be successful, to put in the work, to make it. And I got here moving from Florida and immediately just missed my home state, because it's not that anymore at all. I mean, there's homeless people everywhere. The city is dirty. A lot of people are out of work. Something like 60% of the businesses here are shut down due to these COVID-19 lockdowns. So we've really fallen from grace as a city.
Show that Venice video. You have that Venice video to show?
I do have a Venice video to show you guys. So
this is our city.
Just to give you sort of the imagery of what we're talking about, Venice in 2020 looked far different than Venice looks here today in 2021. And here's a little video to showcase that for you.
One thing. I just want to preface this before, because some of you guys, you might be from Los Angeles, a lot of parts of Venice have always been a dump. Okay? The boardwalk has always been a dump. So, but we're not just saying
well, not always, just in the last 10 years or so.
I don't know. I feel like people have known that Venice boardwalk.
Once upon a time, Muscle Beach was a sweet place to go. I'm just saying.
Okay. Listen, it's been a dump for a long time. All right. But this just shows how the lockdowns exorbitantly made it worse. It was exponential worseness because of the lockdowns.
Yeah,
worseness.
That's a word, I think.
I think worseness is a word.
And I can't confirm or deny that.
Well,
so
I'm an English major.
Let's keep going.
So this is the Venice Beach Boardwalk. Here we go. That's 2020.
Okay, not too bad. It's kind of pretty.
Yeah, it was pretty. People are hanging out, no problems. Here's
Same
2021.
shot.
Same exact shot, same exact location.
Oh my gosh.
Look at all those encampments.
Wait for it.
It doesn't stop.
Home sweet home.
Home sweet home, baby.
Home sweet home. I
I
love
was thinking
Florida
of
to be
moving
here.
over to the west side, and now I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, so I was living in Santa Monica the last year, and firsthand experienced. I like every night, basically almost every night of the week, there would be a homeless guy who would come in the little alcove outside, like where there's a parking lot. You have to access it through the alley, and they'd come in the parking lot on private property of my apartment building and just sleep there. And like they'd bring bikes, they have iPhones and like laptops, but they're like homeless, and they just sit there and like I'd be like trying to fall asleep in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden two of them would be like arguing with each other, and it'd be getting heated, and I'd literally have to call the cops. And I contacted my apartment people, and I was like, hey, like this keeps happening, what can you guys help me out, what should I do? And they're like, call the cops. And I was like, okay. So I started calling the cops, and I'd call the cops, and then they'd come, and then the homeless people would leave, and then they'd come back like 2 days later. Or I'd call the cops, and if you say homeless in LA, they won't come to move them. You have to say a suspicious person. I have my old neighbor who's lived there for like 40 years and has rent control was like, oh yeah, you have to do this and this. And he's like, oh yeah, a person was shot across the street. And this is like Santa Monica, like one of the most expensive zip codes in the country, a nice area, nice place. And, I just left, and I'm getting married soon. My fiance was like, yeah, we're not living.
Ooh,
in
Taylor
this,
getting
in this place.
married.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
She's like, we need to go to a building with security, and it's just a sad state of affairs. And even there, where the new place we're at is across the street from this park, and what is the park full of? It looks exactly like Venice Beach. It's like tons of, and this is like our day-to-day reality. Is these tents everywhere? I mean, Alma, you've seen it like all over LA. These tents are everywhere.
And it's crazy because normally when you move somewhere, you meet somebody who's a local, and they say, oh, a pro tip, a good coffee place right up the street a couple blocks. When you move here, it's like, oh, a pro tip, when you call the police on a homeless person, say suspicious person. Don't say homeless person. It's so crazy
true.
that's what you have to learn when you move to LA. And I've even seen it where I move. So I move to an area called Silver Lake in LA. And a few months ago, it was fine. It was not even bad. I didn't see any homeless people. And it's even over the past couple of months, it's progressed where I'm starting to see homeless people more and more. And the streets are just getting dirtier and dirtier. And nobody wants to do anything about it. It's just a problem that's not even being addressed.
They have all these like squatting laws too. That like you can't evict homeless people if they're like, it doesn't work in every situation, but there are like some of the laws that are the worst in the country with this. Like you can go into a house as a homeless person that's unvacant, and then you can squat there, and then they can't just kick you out. They have to evict you. They have to evict you out of this place. It's different in different counties, and like that's not the full story, but that's essentially what it is. Is that like you have to be evicted. We had this guy, my buddy lived next to a place to me in Hollywood, and there was this mattress that was outside, right outside the place, and this homeless guy would do dirty things outside on the mattress, okay? That's all you guys can think of the visual yourself.
Fill in the blanks.
He would do dirty things outside on this mattress, and we would call the police, or he would call the police. It was his building. I didn't live there. And he'd call the police, and he'd be like, can you do anything about this guy? And they're like, like the police can't kick him off. Like we have to give him an eviction notice to get off the property here. It's like this dude is doing this nasty dirt right out front of my place. And you can't kick him off. He's doing that nasty bad. Right out front. And it's like, you can't kick him off? What do you mean? Arrest this person. There's like people who walk by and they're watching this.
Yep.
They're pooping on the side of the street. You watch them poop. It's crazy.
It's true.
Like something has to be done so that they can get actual jobs, so that we can make it so that like we don't have these encampments everywhere. It's so dirty. Everywhere you go in LA, it smells horrible. It smells horrible. Hollywood Walk of Fame, I mean, it smells so bad, I can't go do videos there anymore. I used to do videos there all the time. It smells so bad, you can't go.
My grandpa told me that he took the family on a vacation to LA like back in the 60s, and he was like, it was so pristine in Hollywood Boulevard. If someone like dropped a piece of trash on the ground, there was like someone to come pick it up. And the contrast between that and now, it's like disgusting. I've dropped the link in the chat if you guys didn't see, of Amala's first visit to Hollywood, which we documented in a vlog. And the expectation versus reality hit pretty hard pretty quickly there.
Yeah, it was a rude awakening for me. And the longer that I'm here, the more I realize that we can recognize that there's a problem. I think everybody can recognize that this is problematic, but we are not fixing the problem. We are accommodating the problem.
Exactly.
And it's really, really sad. And I have an article here to show you guys here. So there's a place here called Will Rogers Beach, and there's so many homeless people. Yeah, Taylor goes there to play volleyball.
Yeah, so this is the beach that I go to almost every weekend to play beach volleyball. And
now we're blowing up Taylor's spot. Huh?
I guess so. And yeah, like a new city councilman has recommended or put forth a motion to turn this beach into a homeless campsite. And this just keeps happening in LA. They move the problem around or open up different spots. And look, like Amla was saying, we can be sympathetic to, the hardships some of these people are facing. They have mental illness. They have nowhere to go. They're on the out and out. And like, we can be sympathetic and there are ways to help them. But the way to help them is the answer cannot be giving up our city and punishing taxpayers and making parks and beaches inaccessible to children, making parks unsafe for children. There's needles on the ground that's full of, mentally unstable, dangerous. That cannot be the answer. And it's also not compassionate to like let someone live on the street. That's not what compassionate lives like. So for all the talk of like on the left, it's like, oh, well, we need to be compassionate. Well, it's not compassionate to make someone live on a sidewalk.
Yep.
Okay. And so that can't be the answer. There are answers. And we're looking at doing a vlog soon with an organization in Los Angeles called the Dream Center that actually does tackle the problem and try to address it at the root. But even them, talking to some of their representatives, are like, we can only help these people as much as they want to help themselves. But lowering the bar is never the standard. It's the same thing with the CIA stuff. We lower the bar, or the military. Lowering the bar doesn't help anything. Any academic standards for in the Black community, lowering the bar for people only makes everything worse. If we hold the bar high and then figure out ways to help the people who are below not
that.
Below that, that's the better way to address it.
Or like, not all these people though are mentally ill. Like these people, not all the people on Hollywood Boulevard are mentally ill.
It's true.
It's like we talked about the other day. You get free handouts from the government. Why would you want to work? Why
Exactly.
I went to Skid Row. Okay, I know a lot of people, they talk about homeless stuff, or they talk about what's going on. They don't actually do it. I go and do it. I went to Skid Row and talked to homeless people and talked to the people who work there with the homeless resources. And these people, many of the people, like a guy who I talked to, which is so sad. It's horrible. He said that I left my family in Louisiana. He had a wife and 2 kids, a wife and 2 daughters. He left his family in Louisiana to go be homeless in LA. He said, I wanted to try out the lifestyle. And there are people who do that. And these places like Skid Row is filled with prostitution and crime and drugs. Like, we can't let this go on. We can't. And the amount of money, in the homeless, like for the government programs, the amount of money, if you guys can ever see, look it up. The amount of money that goes into the admin, just paying people's wages who are supposed to be helping this problem, is so incredibly high that the amount of money that actually gets directed to each homeless person is so incredibly low. It's so incredibly low. Yeah. And then you're just, again, throwing money at the problem. So none of the government solutions work. You need to give these people a path that they actually have to work. You have to make, like, basically staying out on the street illegal, because it's like you can't just have people staying everywhere. Yeah. I mean, there has to be, like, practical solutions to this, because nothing they're doing now is working. It's actually making it a lot worse.
Yeah, there needs to be a crackdown on this sort of issue. To be living in a city that has one of the highest, prices to live here. It's so expensive to live here in LA, and that is partially what is contributing to a lot of the people being homeless in this state. But it's not fair to the people who are here paying rent and working to have to deal with this every single day. So something needs to be done about it.
And it's not just, to Joe Rogan's point too, this is just, we spent all this time talking about one issue, and that's just the homeless issue. There's also the taxes, there's the terrible governance across the board. And so I don't blame anyone, at this point, I don't blame anyone for leaving California. And, we're still here fighting the good fight, but, no judgment here if
I'm ready to go.
Feel ready to leave.
I'm ready to go.
I know.
Man,
there's a growing swell of us that are like,
know.
oh man.
Yeah.
Nashville's looking pretty good right now.
There is a growing disdain.
Come on, Prager. We're ready to go.
Right. I always say that if it was not for this job, if it wasn't for the people that I'm working with and the work that I'm doing, I would not be here in LA. I would be back in Florida. So I did leave a freedom state to come out here and do the work. So we have lots of work to do, clearly.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like, people keep voting for these policies and they keep supporting these policies. And so as long as you do, like, you deserve this. You deserve to have your city go down the tubes, you know, as long as you continue to vote the same way and continue to perpetuate the problem by supporting the policies that start these problems. And again, it goes back to that, does it feel good or does it do good? I feel like Californians just have this mentality of like, oh, well, it feels good to say, oh, let's not be mean to the homeless people. But it is actually mean to them to enable them to live this bad lifestyle, because they're never going to get the help that they truly could get as long as you're just focused on enabling and giving up and conceding ground and making the whole city worse. It doesn't work.
Yeah, it's like if you have a son and your son is like a major drug addict and you keep letting him do drugs and you don't give him any consequences, and then you keep giving him money to go buy more drugs. That's not helping your son. That's not helping him at all. You need to discipline your son and make sure that he gets up on his feet and like makes a better life for himself. Give him the opportunities so that he can make that better life, help him and be compassionate. But you can't just keep giving him away. You can't have him have the cake and eat it too at the same time.
Yeah, we need to fix the problem, like I said, and not accommodate it, not allow it to continue, and just make safer spaces for people to do the things that are causing the detriment to our society. And that's, you know, just a foundational belief that we have as conservatives, of just taking responsibility for things, taking accountability, teaching people to have accountability for themselves. And that's not how we are treating the homeless community out here in Los Angeles. And I'm sure a lot of other states are experiencing this very same problem. So we at PragerU try to warn against that and sort of teach the foundations of conservatism so that people can learn that and hopefully take that in place in their own lives.
Yes. And guys, before we wrap up, let's say a prayer for everyone in the Middle East right now. We hope that the violence ends soon, and hopefully everyone can come together and be peaceful. That's the best thing that we can hope for, and we hope that everything works itself out. And we have a lot of resources on PragerU about a lot of the problems happening in the Middle East right now. You guys can check them out on PragerU.com as well if you want to learn more. We would talk about it, but we're kind of out of time for today. But again, we pray for these people and hope that everyone stays safe out there with everything going on.
Yes. So that is our parting message for you. I know it can be very hard to watch what's happening in the news right now. And if you are confused, like Will said, there are resources that we have for you to get you caught up on these issues and why all of this is happening. If you like our stream today, please like and subscribe to us. You can also follow us on Facebook. We stream on there as well every weekday at 2:30 for about an hour or so.
2:30 p.m. Pacific, 5:30 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah. So thank you guys for watching.
Thank you for watching, guys. See you later.
Bye.
Peace.